Charlie is a veteran pilot with thousands of flight hours and the unwavering confidence of a man who survived World War II. He views the cockpit as a place of absolute control, where machinery and expertise can overcome any obstacle. But he carries the weight of the missions that earned him that reputation. The memory of dropping payloads over burning cities has left him with a quiet, persistent trauma that modern life hasn't managed to erase. Now, he flies solo cargo routes across the Arctic. It's a high-stakes job that requires him to navigate thousands of miles of frozen, uninhabited terrain, where the weather can turn in minutes. While making a routine delivery, Charlie encounters an Inuit family at a remote camp. Their daughter, Canella, is in the advanced stages of tuberculosis, and they are desperate for him to fly her to a city hospital. Charlie initially refuses the risk, unwilling to take on the liability of a dying passenger. He only agrees after the family offers him a set of walrus tusks, illegal ivory that carries a massive value on the black market. With the ivory on board, Charlie's greed takes over. He diverts the flight to pick up a second, profitable payload, but the detour pushes the engine to its breaking point. A fire breaks out in the air, and Charlie is forced to crash land the plane into a freezing lake. The crash strips away his tools, his transport, and his radio. In an instant, the veteran pilot is forced into a struggle for survival, where his flight hours mean nothing. Charlie assumes he can simply navigate his way out on foot. He leaves Canella at the crash site with a few rations, convinced that his military training and a straight-line march will lead him back to civilization. The environment breaks his tools one by one. His rifle magazine disappears into a mud pit, and the freezing rain soaks his matches, leaving him unable to start a fire as the temperature drops. He is soon overwhelmed by swarms of Arctic mosquitoes. He underestimated the sheer scale of the insects, and their constant biting leaves him delirious and physically drained. Bleeding from the bites and unable to stay on his feet, Charlie suffers a total defeat. He collapses into the mud, unconscious and dying. The landscape has proven that military expertise is not the same as environmental survival. Without a way to adapt to the tundra, Charlie is a dead man. Charlie wakes to find his skin coated in mud and ground herbs. Despite her illness, Canella followed his trail and used traditional medicine to neutralize the toxins in his blood. She feeds him a restorative soup made from ground squirrels she caught without traps or weapons. The fat-rich broth provides the immediate energy he needs to sit up and move again. Canella is no longer just a passenger. As Charlie's reliance on his equipment fades, he has to rely entirely on her understanding of the land to stay alive. She begins to teach him how to use animal skins for warmth and how to build stone lines that trick reindeer into a trap. These techniques allow them to hunt and insulate themselves without a single piece of modern technology. Survival in this terrain requires a total shift in focus. Charlie is learning to work within the ecosystem by following a set of rules that have kept her people alive for centuries. During their trek, they find another plane wreck, a rusted shell from decades ago. Inside, they find the skeletal remains of a pilot who never made it out. Charlie immediately reaches for the dead man's rifle. He sees a chance to reclaim a tactical advantage and protect them with a familiar tool. Canella stops him. She insists on a proper burial, explaining that in her culture, the dead must keep their tools for the afterlife. To her, taking the rifle is a violation of the man's journey. Charlie yields to her. He digs a grave in the permafrost, buries the pilot, and leaves the rifle in the dirt beside him. Charlie covers the grave with heavy stones, choosing to walk away from a functional weapon to honor a man he never knew. Far to the south, the search for Charlie's plane has officially ended. His company has moved on, and the two are now truly alone in the wasteland. As the first real snow begins to fall, Canella's condition deteriorates. The cold air triggers violent coughing fits that leave her weak and gasping for air. Charlie refuses to leave her. He builds shelters to block the wind and carries her on his back through the deepening drifts, determined to get her to safety. Canella sees that her weight is slowing them both down. While Charlie sleeps, she quietly crawls out of the tent and walks into the storm, choosing to face the cold alone. She surrendered her own life to give Charlie a clear path to survival. It was a final, deliberate act of protection for the man she had taught to live. Charlie wakes to an empty tent and the realization of what she has done. He spends hours searching the whiteout, but there is no trace of her left in the snow. He builds one final grave. In it, he places the walrus ivory he once demanded as a bribe, leaving the wealth behind to accompany Canella into the afterlife. Charlie continues the journey alone, utilizing her methods to find food and shelter. Days later, he is spotted and rescued by a local Inuit tribe. Charlie survived the impossible by setting aside his instincts as a pilot and adopting the specific, ancient rhythms of the land that Canella taught him. He walked out of the Arctic because he learned to see the world through her eyes.